The updated AP poll rankings for college basketball are now out, and with multiple top teams losing this past week, the Week 14 Top 25 rankings are looking very different. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down every team in the AP Top 25 poll, starting at number 25 and working our way to the number 1 spot. But before we get into the rankings, if you enjoy the content, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. And now, let's jump into it. And as always, to start us off, I want to quickly go over some of the teams that are receiving votes but just missed out on the rankings. And the first team outside of the top 25 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And the Crimson Tide actually beat Texas A&M and won on the road at Auburn this past week, which caused me to put them into my top 25, but it looks like they're still on the outside looking in. Then we have Iowa, who is now on a 6-game win streak in Big Ten play after that 3-game losing skid they had. And Bennett Sturts has been on an absolute tear during this stretch. Then you have NC State, who was on a 6-game win streak of their own before their blowout loss this week to Louisville. So I'm expecting they'll drop further in next week's AP poll update. And then you have Tennessee, who is 4-2 in their last 6 games, but those 2 losses are to Kentucky, which makes sense why the Wildcats are actually ranked in the top 25 when compared to Tennessee. And starting off our rankings at number 25, we have Kentucky, who re-enters the AP poll this week with a 17-7 record after spending the majority of the season, it feels like, unranked. And after a rough first half of the season that tested Big Blue Nation's patience, the Wildcats have stabilized enough to climb back into the rankings. However, I did have Kentucky just outside of my top 25 at number 26 due to their head-to-head loss to Alabama, which is why I had the Crimson Tide in and the Wildcats out. But currently, Kentucky is trending upward, and if this consistency continues, it will determine how long they can stick around inside the top 25. Next, at number 24, we have the Louisville Cardinals, and they're currently 18-6 right now and have plenty of momentum. This past week, they had solid wins over Notre Dame and Wake Forest, which actually transitioned into this week because on Monday night, the Cardinals lit up NC State with 118 points, which should push them even further up in next week's AP poll. And I already had them higher at number 21 in my rankings, especially after beating Kentucky head-to-head, but they have a weekend matchup with Baylor, which could be a major opportunity to help them climb even higher next week. Miami, Ohio holds steady at number 23 in the AP poll as they remained undefeated at 24-0 now, and I have them slightly lower at number 25 due to their strength of schedule, but there's still no denying that this team belongs in the top 25 with the way that they have been playing so far this season. And with Arizona's loss on Monday night, Miami, Ohio is now the last unbeaten team in all of college basketball, and if the wins keep coming, the pressure to move them up will grow even more. At number 22, we have a team that's trending in the wrong direction, and that's BYU, who dropped to number 22 after a rough stretch that included losses at Oklahoma State and at home to Houston this past week. And the Cougars were once viewed as a legitimate contender earlier in the season, but now they're 17-6 and sliding in the wrong direction fast. However, I had them at number 24, so this placement does make sense to me because I had them even a few spots back, because if these losses continue to pile up, BYU may not remain ranked much longer. Coming in at the number 21 spot is the Arkansas Razorbacks, and Arkansas stays at number 21 this week following their quiet week with just 1 game, which was a dominant 20-point road win over a Mississippi State team, which isn't really the best in the SEC right now. However, Darius Acuff Jr. was a highlight in that game as he has continued his impressive freshman campaign, scoring 24 points and 8 assists in that one. But I had Arkansas much higher at number 17 because I just truly believe in the talent and the wins that they put around them, especially the one against Texas Tech, which I believe should have the Red Raiders behind them with the comparison and resumes. But with tougher SEC games ahead, the Razorbacks definitely have opportunities to continue rising up the rankings. And coming in at number 20 is Clemson, who lands at number 20 with their 20-4 record on the season so far, and they haven't moved despite another productive week. The Tigers picked up back-to-back wins over both Stanford and California and have now won 13 of their last 14 games and look like one of the hottest teams in the country currently. I did have them at number 23 due to just not fully believing their strength of resume, but I can't deny that at 20-4 and in a power conference, they definitely should be ranked around this spot. But the balanced production and consistency that they have suggests that they could even climb higher if they get some better wins in ACC play. Vanderbilt comes in at number 19, and they slid back 4 spots to number 19 in the rankings after dropping their 4th game in the last 7 contests that they've had. And Vanderbilt was once 16-0 on the season and looking like one of the best teams in the country, but now they're just 19-4 and searching for stability during this 3-4 stretch. I have them higher at number 16 though, but that surprising home loss to Oklahoma definitely hurts the resume. And the bigger concern to me is that Tyler Tanner had a huge game with a 37-point performance against Oklahoma, and if you can't win with your best player having that type of performance, there's some real concerns going forward. Next, at number 18, we have the St. Louis Billikens, who move up to this spot with a stellar 23-1 record on the season, and they just continue to gain national respect week after week with what they've been doing. I had them at number 20, but the metrics definitely support this rise in the AP poll, as they're top 25 in KenPom rankings now and are driven by elite shooting and defensive efficiency. And honestly, this Billikens squad is one of the most entertaining teams to watch in the country and could push into the top 15 or maybe even the top 10 if a few things go their way and they keep winning. At number 17, we have one of the biggest risers in this week's AP poll, and that's St. John's, who jumped up 5 spots after that statement upset win over UConn. And now the Johnnies are 19-5 and appear to be living up to those preseason expectations that we all had for them, which was built by that strong transfer class. And I had them close around here at number 18 in my rankings, and their current 9 or 10 game winning streak suggests that they're just getting started, and it looks like they could be challenging UConn to win the Big East once again. And if this form continues, St. John's could keep climbing up the rankings fast. At number 16 is where Texas Tech is, and they slipped down to number 16 following a slightly shaky stretch despite still holding a solid 17-6 record. And as I mentioned earlier, I had them lower behind Arkansas at number 19, as this offense has struggled to find rhythm after close games against UCF, Kansas, where they took losses, and then just got a win against West Virginia this past weekend. And the Red Raiders at times have shown they can be elite and one of the best teams in the country, so I expect them to bounce back, but this offense must rediscover its identity if they want to do just that. Virginia moves up to the number 15 spot after another productive week that featured wins over both Pittsburgh and Syracuse for the Cavaliers. And now Virginia sits at 20-3 and 9-2 in ACC play, and the Cavaliers are starting to turn heads nationally and have been a team that I've been on recently, and I had them right here in line with the AP poll at number 15. And while this defense isn't quite at peak levels like they have been in past seasons, specifically with Tony Bennett, this group continues to prove it can win consistently night after night and deserves to be in the top 15 of the country, I believe. Florida checks in at number 14 in this week's AP poll, and this is exactly where I rank them as well, though I will admit this feels low given the quality that this team has been playing in recently. But now they are 17-6, so the resume may justify this spot, but the Gators look stronger than several teams ranked above them in my opinion, including Purdue and Gonzaga. And if Florida continues to string together wins, they could rise quickly and look more like a top team than a fringe top 15 one like they are right now. Coming in at number 13 is where Purdue lies, and they slipped slightly back to this spot despite holding a 19-4 record. I had them higher at number 11 because I truly believe even with the recent struggles, their resume and the underlying metrics that the Boilermakers have still scream a top 10 team, honestly. And this is one of the most experienced and talented teams in the country, and I truly believe that. And while they're in a slump right now, the ceiling remains extremely high if they can regain the form that we saw earlier in the season as we head into March. At the number 12 spot, we have Gonzaga, who falls 6 spots back after that shocking loss to Portland earlier in the week, despite finishing the week though with a strong dominant win over Oregon State. And the Zags are now 23-2 and are definitely still benefiting from their early excellent season resume. I had them slightly lower though at number 13 because I ranked Purdue above them, because when comparing those two resumes, I just believe the Boilermakers definitely look better, but how they respond over the next few weeks will shape their seeding outlook and whether or not they'll jump in the rankings or fall back even more. North Carolina was another big winner this week as they jumped to number 11 after completing their largest comeback against Duke in the last 25 seasons when they played in Chapel Hill. And now the Tar Heels are 19-4 and are trending upward fast. And I had them at number 12, which is right around here, because I do still believe Purdue has a stronger overall resume, but the recency that we see with Carolina clearly favors them. And if this momentum holds, a top 10 spot could be next for Caleb Wilson and the Tar Heels. And starting off our top 10 at number 10, we have Michigan State, who held firm at this spot despite a mixed week. They took a bad loss at Minnesota, which has raised several concerns, but then had one of the best wins of the week with that bounce back win over Illinois, which helped steady the ship and keep them in the top 10 of the AP poll. And now the Spartans are 20-4, and that defense remains elite under Tom Izzo, but the offensive consistency is still the biggest question for this team. And I had them slightly higher actually at number 9, with just what the resume looks like overall, but feels like this team is just destined for a second weekend run in March. At the number 9 spot, we have Kansas, who climbed here after a strong stretch that included wins over BYU and Texas Tech. And at 19-5, the Jayhawks are thriving even without Darren Peterson, thanks to strong backcourt play from Melvin Council and Trey White, and Flory Badunga has been huge in the frontcourt from the Jayhawks as well. And I had them at number 10, so this feels fair as we're right around the same spot. And with another 2-0 week, Kansas could definitely push into the top 5 conversation, and we already got one of those wins on Monday night against Arizona, so we'll see if they can get another one against Baylor over the weekend. Next at number 8, we have Illinois, who dropped 3 spots in this week's AP poll following that overtime loss at Michigan State. But despite that setback, the Illini still boast one of the strongest resumes in the country at 20-4 and remain projected as a 2 seed in most bracketology. And now I had them slightly higher at number 7. I just truly believe in this team and feel like they're one of the best teams in the entire country. And with how well they've played overall, specifically as of late, this loss really shouldn't derail their long-term outlook. And I still feel like they're one of the strongest national title contenders. Coming in at the number 7 spot, we have Nebraska, who rose in this past week's AP poll after that much-needed get-right win at Rutgers for the Cornhuskers. Now, they sit at 21-2, and the Huskers rebounded well after back-to-back losses to Michigan and Illinois earlier in Big Ten play, and I had them just behind this at number 8, but this team continues to feel legit and like one of the best ones in the country, and I truly believe Nebraska has what it takes to earn its first ever NCAA tournament win this season, and maybe even more. UConn slid back to number 6 after its loss to St. John's this past week that snapped an 18-game winning streak that the Huskies were currently on. But now, UConn sits at 22-2 and still remain one of the nation's most dangerous teams and still have a great resume themselves. I had them slightly higher at number 5 because of this, and I'm not overly concerned long-term with what the Huskies will do after that loss, especially given Dan Hurley's track record and the fact that they've won 2 out of the last 3 national championships. And with strong title odds still intact, UConn should remain in the top tier of all of college basketball. And starting off our top 5, we have Iowa State at number 5, who climbed back in after rebounding impressively from some of those earlier losses they took. Now, the Cyclones are 21-2 after picking up convincing wins over both Kansas State and Baylor and have won 5 straight. And I had them just behind UConn at number 6, but truly don't have any concerns with where they're ranked right here in the AP poll. And the biggest question for me is if they can avoid a late season collapse like they had last year. But right now, Iowa State looks like a serious contender not only in the Big 12, but nationally. And coming in at the number 4 spot, we have Duke, who actually held firm at number 4 despite that buzzer beater loss that they took at North Carolina. And now with the 21-2 record, the Blue Devils weren't punished much thanks to the chaos behind them and the resume that they've built so far this season, as it's one of the best in the country. And I had them ranked at number 4 as well. And with only 2 losses by a combined 4 points, Duke remains firmly in the mix for a number 1 seed in March Madness and still have some of the best talent in all of the sport. Houston surged up to number 3 this week in the AP poll after their own dominant week that included a 24-point win over a good UCF team and an impressive road victory at BYU. And now the Cougars are 21-2 as well and riding a 4-game winning streak of their own and really look like a true powerhouse again. And I believe they were a dark horse earlier, but it now seems like everyone's getting back on that Houston train. And I had them right here as well at number 3 and expect Houston to stay in the top 3 to 5 range the rest of the season. At the number 2 spot is Michigan once again as they stay locked in after another dominant week. And the Wolverines crushed Penn State by 41 and followed that with a 21-point win over Ohio State, moving to 22-1 on the year with that lone loss coming against Wisconsin. And I had them at number 2 in my rankings as well, and they continue to look like a 1 seed and a Final Four caliber team and firmly in the same tier as Arizona right now. And I truly believe in next week's poll, Michigan could be the number 1. And coming in at the number number 1 spot, we have Arizona, who remained here with their perfect 23-0 record coming into the week. And the Wildcats only played once last week, but dominated an Oklahoma State team at home. And I have them number 1 in my rankings as well. But with that loss that they took to Kansas on Monday night, there could be more of a conversation. But Arizona still has a strong case to remain atop the AP poll come next week's ranking, as they've been the standard of college basketball all season long. But that wraps it up for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on this week's AP Top 25 rankings in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.